Sit down and listen, because the show has begun. We're gonna learn some science, or we're gonna have some fun. Maybe both. Who can say? You should listen anyway. Whatever we do, you know it's gonna be terrific, so thanks for tuning in to Vaguely Scientific.
Word.
D to the E to the R-E-K. You can call me Derek, and I'm here to say I'm hosting the show, but I'm gonna need assistance, so let me throw the mic to Jim, the scientist man.
Word to your doctoral thesis writing person.
Yay!
Doctoral candidate, that's what I was trying to say, and I forgot the word candidate in the middle of it.
Well, there's someone else here. New phone, who dis? Our guest this week is waiting. Let me tell you who it is. Let me introduce them now with nothing more ado. Hello, Chris. Welcome back. How are you?
I pulled up the lyrics to Eminem's Rap God just to give it a shot. And, no.
Way to shoot for the stars on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most difficult raps to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a rap album, and I am not a rapper, as the listeners are now keenly aware. But Vaguely Scientific is a show where we try to answer questions submitted by listeners, posed by friends of the show, and gathered by random happenstance in our daily lives. We can't always promise we'll get the answers right, but we can promise various other things we won't do. Before we get to those questions, Jim's going to tell us the fun science fact of the day. Jim?
Yeah, I hope this one's fun. Around 97% of all water on Earth is salt. Or, salt water, I suppose you could say. But of the 3% that is fresh water, 2% of that is locked up all in glaciers. So we've been getting by with just 1% of water.
I vaguely remember knowing this fact before, now that you've said it, and that I love sometimes how percentages are misleading like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1% sounds like very little water, but like 1% of all the water on Earth is a huge amount of water.
Yeah, our planet is 70% water, so... Or I should say it's covered.
I mean, with climate change and the glaciers melting, we're going to have more water soon. Right?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're doing such a good job.
Mm-hmm.
The future is bleak. Speaking of the future,
yes.
Question one this week is kind of about time travel. It's more of a prompt than a question, though. But our first topic of discussion, I suppose I should say, is come up with a plausible science fiction explanation for time travel localizing physical objects to Earth in space. It's a lot of... I don't know. As I was saying that, it sounded like word salad. I promise I understood it when I read it. We've talked about this. We've talked about this before, right? The idea that like if you travel back in time, the Earth has moved.
Yeah.
So like you might just wind up in space where the Earth used to have been.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you get things exactly right. Otherwise, congratulations. Hard vacuum.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like in the past, we've always brought up that it is like one of the biggest flaws in a lot of time travel fiction. And for that reason, I wanted to kind of start by looking at if other time travel science fiction stories have addressed this, and if so, how they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first one, before Jim gets to it, that I have on my list here is Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah.
While this is not across the board consistent with Doctor Who, which very much sums up Doctor Who in general, it does address it at least with the TARDIS in particular, because the TARDIS does travel through space as well as time.
Yeah.
And so they have actually commented in the show that the TARDIS has to navigate to where things would be at certain points in the timeline.
I mean, it's in the acronym of TARDIS, Time and Relative Dimensions in Space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't like to give Doctor Who a lot of credit, but there you go. I'm kidding.
I think it would be a mistake to give it too. No, I'm kidding too. I think it's a really good answer though, because if you think about just the way that it works, it's one of those types of ships that, since it can go anywhere, you don't have to worry about the movement of the planets. So you just arrive when and where you want to arrive, and that's it. And they don't have to worry about, explaining it, because that's just part of the premise.
Speaking of not worrying about explaining it, I do regret to admit that Back to the Future does not address this problem at all.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think most science fiction does.
Most of it doesn't. That is true. And I only found a handful of examples. And I have like kind of my own idea. But usually this is a hand-waved problem. And I'm kind of surprised by that, because there are a lot of like hard sci-fi stories out there that like very much explore other topics, kind of as complicated, if not more so than this. And this is one that comes up so often that I'm like, I feel like more people should have tackled this.
Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things where it's kind of, by and large, unimportant to the plot. So they're like, oh, it just works. Don't worry about that. That's not part of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Two big time travel examples in media I can think of are both Star Trek. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, where they actually use the sun to slingshot around and go from 23rd century, I want to say 2360s somewhere, to 1986.
Yeah,
so they do not talk about any spatial displacement at all.
Right.
Yeah.
The other time travel in Star Trek I'm thinking of is Star Trek First Contact, where where the Borg create a tunnel through time. Enterprise gets caught in the wake, because otherwise, if they hadn't, they would have become Borg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In neither case do they attempt to explain it, although Star Trek has chronoton particles that apparently control time or something, and I wonder if they have anything to do with it. I think it's good old-fashioned phlebotinum, but good old-fashioned phlebotinum. Buy yours today.
Yes. Well, I think that the first Star Trek example is a really interesting one, because one of the things I was thinking about was the idea that if you are using something like a really strong gravity well, because I think what they do is they like slingshot around the sun while also going to warp at the same time or something like that.
Yes, the warp is involved. I remember that. It's been a while since I've seen Star Trek 4.
Yeah, same. But I was thinking, like, if you have something where you are relying on the existence of a gravity well, maybe that keeps you sort of pinned in place spatially, because you're in orbit around this thing, not just in space, but also time. So it like drags you back or forward in time with it as it moves. Because I was thinking about that in relationship with things like black holes. Now, in a lot of media, especially nowadays, there are a lot of instances where ships will use black holes to go forward in time. But I feel like that was also a trend a long time ago, before we really understood like what black holes were, where you could do the opposite, where you could kind of slingshot around a black hole and go back in time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, things we didn't understand very well were fantastic for science fiction. Like, now we look at things like, oh, this
Mars.
ship flew into, well, Mars is a good, or even the moon, as far back as the moon. Like, there were one of the first silent films ever made was people landing on the moon and running into aliens there. And
yeah.
Okay, so I want to get one thing out of the way. I don't know if either of you are going to talk about this, and you're welcome to continue talking about this, but I don't have a lot to say other than the question specifically says a science fiction explanation. So briefly mentioning, if it is magic, if it is magical time travel, that is a thing we do not need to worry about because it works by magic.
Oh, true. But any technically advanced civilization is indistinguishable from magic, or whatever Arthur C. Clarke said.
Yeah. One of those, yeah. So I was running into, as I was trying to like put notes together for what I wanted to talk about, I started running into, I don't know if I just went backwards in my mindset of this, because I started realizing that I don't think that this is as much of a problem in a lot of time travel stories as we always joke about. And so I'm looking at things like H.G. Wells' Time Machine or Back to the Future, where it is a device that travels specifically.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's something like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, then you just explain it the way you do the TARDIS. It also goes through space, however. It just kind of comes with the package deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So the idea being, and these are things that aren't explored in that, but if you have like a single time machine, you could more easily explain something by saying the device must have what we're going to call an anchor. And in these examples, that anchor is the Earth, but it could theoretically be some other object or anything. And so looking at relativity, since motion is only meaningful relative to a reference frame, i.e. that anchor, a time machine must compute the anchor in order to move the traveler to anywhere in space. Essentially, there is no absolute space because literally everything is relative.
Yeah.
And that explanation there works for me to explain anything with a time machine. And that kind of deflates the question a little bit in my mind. So I tried to look at some other examples of things where it isn't just a single time traveler. So I looked at Michael Crichton's Timeline.
Oh, okay.
Which honestly doesn't work terribly differently, with just the exception that they are traveling back into an earlier form of our timeline. And it is then revealed that everything that will have happened does happen and has always happened. And that's the sort of the Tralfamadorian idea.
Yeah, predestination paradox.
Right? And so if that's the case, then yeah, you can only travel backwards in your own timeline, which means time is interlocked with space. And then I looked at the Superman movie, the Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Oh, okay.
With the much hated scene of Superman flying around the Earth to make it spin backwards. I don't have as much of a problem with this scene in this movie as a lot of people do. It is dated, but if you look at it more as Superman flying backwards in time versus the common consensus Superman reversing the rotation of the Earth, thus making time flow backwards, and just try to accept that that is a visual representation of him traveling backwards in time, then he really doesn't affect anything in such a way that would necessitate that he doesn't travel backwards in time. He's just going backwards in Earth's timeline. This is all to say I have avoided reading about quantum entanglement all day. And I'm pretending that this is a non-issue. I have more to say, but I'd like to hear from either of you.
I think we're starting to get into relativity here. And I don't know about you. I haven't actually read A Brief History of Time. I see it on the shelf every once in a while. And I don't own a copy, but I go into bookstores quite often. I see a copy and it's like, oh, maybe I should read that.
I read it, but it was like 20 years ago, so I don't remember anymore. But I do think that you brought up a really good point about something being like an anchor. I think that actually that solves the Back to the Future problem, because to me, I'm like, okay, the car is in physical contact with the Earth. And so where it goes, it's going to stay in physical contact with the Earth.
Right.
And maybe even to a greater extent, the spot it is traveling in. Because I think geographically, it doesn't go very far when it goes back in time.
I mean, certainly not relatively to space.
Yeah. But same with like The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. It's like anchored to a spot, I think, and it sees the world go around it, basically, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, especially in the film adaptation, that's the way it is depicted. And I'm pretty sure the machine, while it's not described in huge detail. It is not described as a mobile thing in the book, not like the DeLorean.
But if it's anchored to a place, then it doesn't have to be mobile. It just stays in that place. But if you have to move it, then you time travel somewhere, pick it up, move it physically. I guess that's an argument for putting wheels on your time machine.
Well, I don't know if either of you have seen this movie. I have not seen this movie, so I read a synopsis of it earlier today to get an idea. So for anyone who has seen this movie, I don't know. You're right, I'm wrong. There's a movie called Primer.
Never heard of it.
Of you heard? Never heard of it. Okay.
Never heard of it.
Allegedly, this is a movie about an accidental time machine that is created, and I don't know really what the plot is, but the way that the machine works in this movie is you turn it on, and then from the time that it is on to any time in the future that you step inside of it, you can use it to ride backwards in time, basically like sitting on a train.
Oh,
okay.
So let's say you turn it on at 8 a.m. and then you wait until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You could, let's do easier math for me off the top of my head. Let's say you turn it on at noon and then you step into it at 5 o'clock. You could sit in this machine for 5 hours and then emerge at noon when it was turned on, but you couldn't go any further than that. And I thought that was kind of a fascinating idea, because you're not instantaneously going backwards in time. You're not traveling quickly. It is anchored to Earth, and you are still spending the duration of time traveled in this machine. You're just going in a different direction.
Huh.
Is this scientifically plausible? I feel like no, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. It's a fun idea.
If I'm understanding how you're explaining it, you're basically turning on a record button.
Yeah.
So you can go back in time. This is almost like a video game Extra Life. You just have to remember.
It's like a save state, yeah.
It's a save state. You just have to remember to turn it on every morning. Then if you do something stupid, then you just go back and do it again.
Well, now my understanding of how this works is that you would have to spend the same amount of time sitting in the machine. So I feel like you would still age. So you couldn't necessarily keep repeating the day, because you would always be a full day older by the time you got to the beginning of the day.
Okay.
But you could go back and undo your stupid mistakes.
Yeah, you could probably do that. Again, haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if they deal with like running into yourself in the past or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a wild thought. What if this is how Groundhog Day worked?
I was thinking that, actually.
The Groundhog's hole is actually this primer machine.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm thinking about this, and it's like, no, it's a plausible explanation for Groundhog Day. He just didn't realize that, I guess, the hotel room he woke up in every morning would have been the machine where no, except sometimes he died and he got back in, so it doesn't quite work.
The whole town of Punxsutawney could be this machine.
Oh, I thought you meant, like, I didn't realize you were talking about the movie Groundhog's Day. I thought you were talking about Punxsutawney Phil just living through the ages.
Yes, because there's only ever been the one Punxsutawney Phil.
I'm caught up now, but like, I don't know. I did some gymnastics in my brain and still somehow thought it made perfect sense.
I feel like this is very similar to the Doctor Who, the TARDIS idea, but what if you just have a time machine that's like smart and you can put like a map pin down and like it knows where that map pin is, even if it's like 2 light years in the wrong direction?
Well, if you have time travel, you have technology that is advanced enough that I feel like you could have computers that could calculate all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the biggest handicaps of time travel in real life, which I'm pretty darn sure just isn't possible.
Well, and that actually kind of reminds me of just like planetarium software. I'm familiar with several different versions of different kinds of planetarium software. And so the thing that always sticks out to me is that you can go forward and backward in time, not just, a couple of weeks or a month or a year. Even rudimentary planetarium software, you can go a million years into the future and it will still accurately chart out where planets and stars and constellations and things will be in the year like 1 million AD, basically. And I think that's a really, even with our just current technology, everything in space moves in a pretty logical manner.
Yeah.
So you can make some pretty solid predictions about where stuff's going to be for a very long time forward and backward. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that kind of speaks to what you were saying, is like a computer can handle that fairly without too much trouble at all.
Of course, that is assuming that none of the stars go supernova in the intervening million years.
That's true. I will say my planetarium software never gets rid of Betelgeuse or Antares, and there's a possibility they could go supernova sometime before now in the year 1 million.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so maybe not predicting it, but we could look at evidence for things from the past to see, because my first thought, and I didn't bring it up because I realized it wasn't refuting anything you were saying, but now I'll bring it up to explain just that. I was thinking, if we follow where the Earth would be millions of years ago, what if at some point an asteroid had collided with the Earth and knocked it off of the trajectory, and we didn't account for that? But then I realized, if we're calculating where the Earth has come from, in addition to all the other astral bodies, we would probably calculate that there was that collision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know that going back through time. It's just going forward, we can't. We basically assume, everything's going to be fine just the way it is. We can't really... Well, maybe we can predict some collisions?
I don't know enough about supernovas. I feel like collisions, probably. We could watch the trajectory of things, but I don't know enough about supernovas or like black holes or anything like that.
Yeah. I think collisions you could probably do, but because we can't really accurately predict when a star will explode. Although, if you go into the future and you don't go by that star and the star has exploded, you can come back and be like, hey, that star exploded.
That's fair. There would have to be time travel explorers.
You'd be able to find it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just pan through all the footage here, and when does the star stop being there? Okay, we found it.
Yeah.
So I brought it up. I feel like I have to talk about it. I was reading a little bit about quantum entanglement. I fortunately didn't have to get that far into this, because it gets very complicated and I don't understand it, which really is the cornerstone of writing a plausible science fiction jargon in the first place. But also, quantum entanglement doesn't really give us anything directly related to time travel.
Okay.
But I did think it was interesting to bring up, because it is brought up a lot when we talk about instantaneous communication or matter transportation, like teleportation. So it's tangentially connected and therefore could be plopped into a sci-fi book as some explanation. Essentially, quantum entanglement suggests that like two particles can be linked even at vast distances, and their quantum states correlate to each other. But with teleportation, the suggestion is that because these two things are linked, we could cause them to like create exact duplicates instantaneously. And this is also pitched as like how we could transmit data. There is a surprisingly common misconception that people think that is how data is transferred. That is not. We can't actually transfer any measurable data instantaneously because we are limited by the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There is a mathematical theoretical thing, a particle called a tachyon. And these are proposed particles that move faster than the speed of light. And if they get more energy, they approach the speed of light. So the faster they move, the less energy they actually have. And this has been used in some science fiction, such as Watchmen, the Alan Moore graphic novel. And it has been referenced in other things before, but there's the idea that you can see data from the future because it is transferred back in time through tachyons, and this is how Dr. Manhattan is able to see visions from the future. The assertion there is that tachyons do actually exist in a physical sense. Tachyons exist in the same way that the square root of -1 exists, entirely theoretically, and can be used to calculate things in math, but not actually achievable in a material sense.
So it's all theory.
It's all theory, and therefore any attempt to apply that to what we're looking at, a plausible explanation of how time travel might work, is always going to boil down to this is theoretical jargon that I can kind of make mean whatever I want.
Well, are we confused yet?
I hope
I'm
not.
always confused.
I cut a lot of words out of the notes I was writing down in an effort to keep it from being confusing. I feel like I did use a lot of words just to say quantum mechanics is hard to understand.
Just one last thing that I was thinking of, and since this is just sort of like an exercise in coming up with a plausible science fiction explanation, it doesn't have to be realistic. And so my idea was basically, what if there were sort of absolute coordinates baked into the universe that we just can't perceive because either,
Sure.
you know, with our limited view of the way that the universe works, or we're just not technologically advanced enough yet, but like, maybe there's like there is a thing above relativity when you get to like an upper layer of dimensions or something like that. Again, I can make up whatever I want. It is a scientifically plausible science fiction explanation.
Right. No, I actually like that because it is going in the complete opposite direction of everything I thought of. And now I feel like a good name for a science fiction book is Absolute Space. But like the origin of the universe, and then maybe like there are finite positions. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a fun concept. It's something that I'm sure probably exists in sci-fi that I've not read.
Get Michael Crichton in here.
Yeah. Well, he's dead, so.
Oh.
What I'm hearing is I've missed a bunch of stuff and I need to catch up on it.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with a lot of like time travel science fiction stories, which is why the first bit of my research was like, how has this been addressed?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Jim, what's your favorite painting by Vincent van Gogh?
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, I feel like it might be a cop-out to say Starry Night, but it might be Starry Night.
I mean, Starry Night is a very good one. I think my favorite might be Crab on Its Back, just because it's called Crab on Its Back.
That's a good reason, actually.
Yeah.
But it is a difficult question because he was pretty darn prolific.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's weird to think that he killed all those people.
Excuse me? What people did Vincent van Gogh kill?
Well, the people in Whitechapel.
You mean the Jack the Ripper victims?
This is today's conspiracy theory of the week.
There's likely no way to prove the true identity of Jack the Ripper, but there are a lot of theories throughout history about who the prime suspect might have been. And you were telling me that Vincent van Gogh was one of them?
In his book, Vincent the Ripper, Vincent van Gogh was Jack the Ripper, case closed, Dale Larner suggests that Vincent van Gogh was living in Europe during the same general time period as the Whitechapel murders. His steadily declining mental health could have led him to enact a series of murders as an artistic expression. Larner suggests that you can see depictions of the victim's body in paintings of flowers if you look hard enough.
This is a pretty fringe theory that is not supported by any mainstream historians. You'd be hard-pressed to prove that Van Gogh deliberately left Riddler-style clues in his paintings. This is most likely a case of pareidolia, and citing mental illness as a major motive for murder is incredibly reductive.
Larner claims that Van Gogh's handwriting matches perfectly with samples from the Rippers. He easily could have traveled from France to England without leaving obvious records, so the timeline adds up.
While we have several examples of Van Gogh's handwriting, we don't actually have any of the Rippers to compare it to. Most historians agree that the majority of the letters that are attributed to Jack the Ripper were likely hoaxes and from various sources. Furthermore, most of Van Gogh's handwriting comes from his letters to his brother, and Van Gogh's life is fairly well documented, so I would say the timeline actually doesn't really add up.
But there were codes written in his letters suggesting he was confessing to his crimes to his brother.
The alleged codes that you're referring to rely entirely on very loose subjective interpretation. There is no physical evidence that links Van Gogh to the Whitechapel murders, and serious historians don't consider him a viable suspect.
Okay, fair. Then it must have been Lewis Carroll.
The Alice in Wonderland guy?
Yeah, there are encoded confessions in his private diaries that use anagrams and wordplay. It is very well known that Lewis Carroll used these types of things in his writing all the time.
Well, the anagrams in Carroll's writing and personal diaries can be manipulated to produce almost any message, and there is no evidence placing him at the murders or linking him to the victims. You're just suggesting famous people who lived in roughly the same era. That's the association fallacy, and by the same logic you could say that Billy the Kid was secretly Mark Twain or Tommy Wiseau was D.B. Cooper.
Well...
One conspiracy theory at a time, Derek.
Okay, so what? Do you think Jack the Ripper was an alien?
I do not.
Well, then why not Van Gogh or Carroll?
Well, that's a false dichotomy. While it's likely that nobody can ever be certain, the most likely suspect currently of Jack the Ripper's true identity is a man named Aaron Kaminsky. DNA evidence in 2014 made it a pretty compelling case, but even that isn't foolproof.
Oh, sure, it could have been him too.
What?
Well, it could have been a whole cabal of occultists performing ritualistic sacrifice.
Oh, okay. First of all, there is no evidence of any occult rituals. And second, while there likely have been copycats after, the Whitechapel murders were all pretty close together, both chronologically and geographically. And the methodology behind them strongly suggests they were all committed by the same person. Furthermore, these killings ceased in 1891, shortly after Kaminsky was institutionalized.
Did they cease, or did they just move?
What?
There were several reports in the 1890s of similar killings taking place in America, suggesting that Jack the Ripper evaded discovery and continued his crime spree across the ocean.
It's far more likely that the newspapers caught wind of the incredibly famous Whitechapel murders and wrote about other killings to sell papers. This is the late 19th century, after all, and Joseph Pulitzer's sensationalism in print media was on the rise.
Then explain how 80 years later, similar killings started in California with letters to the police just like the Jack the Ripper cases.
Are you talking about the Zodiac Killer?
Well, maybe the Zodiac Killer was Jack the Ripper all along.
I think we're done here.
Because Jack the Ripper was secretly an immortal vampire.
I said we're done here.
No, we're not. Jack the Ripper was immortal, or at least he's going to become immortal. Look, here's what happened. He was kidnapped by the Vorlons, and he was forced to serve them for several hundred years as an inquisitor to find people who would be proper leaders of the Army of Light. It happened, and it is visible in the documentary Babylon 5.
No, Jim, you're right. We're done here.
Yeah, we are done. We're done.
Oh. Well, moving on, we do have another question that I'm gonna get out now here. What problems would arise if someone actually stole the moon, like Gru in Despicable Me?
Ooh, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
So many.
A lot? Okay. I was reading that apparently everyone wouldn't probably die.
Oh, that's very exciting to know, because I know that in the movie, they did depict it actually being stolen, and not really anybody died as far as I recall, because they did famously make more of those movies.
Well, it was only stolen briefly, as I recall. So
that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
So they really didn't have much of a chance for anything to go horribly wrong. So I think we have to assume that Gru actually succeeded and the moon didn't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. So, like, what would happen if the moon was just gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because the first thing I looked at was the first thing I think of how the moon affects the Earth is the tides.
Yep.
Oh,
So that's where I started, and I was reading that the sun also affects the tides.
Mhm.
So while likely tides would be like less strong, they wouldn't go away entirely. So it might like disrupt the feeding patterns of a lot of animals or something, but like any real noticeable difference would take like thousands of years.
I know a bunch of oyster farmers in Central Virginia who might have problems with it.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's going to disrupt a couple people.
Yeah. I was thinking about tidal pools in general, because I know there are a lot of animals that sort of rely on basically what amounts to these little mud puddles that sort of exist when the tide goes out. And then by the time the tide comes back in, they're still wet enough that these animals are all right, but they sort of rely on that back and forth motion of the ocean.
I also looked at the film Bruce Almighty, the Jim Carrey movie.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't he have the moon on a yo-yo in the DVD box art?
Well, he reference to It's a Wonderful Life. He lassos the moon.
That's right.
To pull it closer, to basically to make it bigger in the sky. Mm-hmm. And what I actually really like that movie does is they don't immediately pay attention to any of the problems, but there are references later in the movie on like news broadcasts of how like there have been a lot of natural disasters because the moon is suddenly closer to the Earth.
Yeah.
So I think that was a fun way to handle that.
Well, and it's interesting too, because when the moon first formed, it was much closer to Earth. That being said, it was a very gradual process that had slowly moved away from Earth over the last, 4 billion years.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I mean, things could be worse. If the moon disappears, what if the moon wakes up?
Oh.
I saw that. I learned about this today.
The moon woke up? Yeah,
the moon
YouTube
woke up.
Series.
I didn't know that was a thing.
And please, for the love of God, this is not going to be about Kill the Moon, is it?
No, it's an egg, and it hatched into... No, it's a... I just discovered it today. I don't know if, Chris, you were familiar with it before.
I have watched it, yes.
Okay.
It's basically science fiction combined with, like, Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the moon is awake, and it crashes into the Earth, and all these things happen. Something called moon juice, which affects people, basically turns people into, I don't want to call them zombies, but for lack of a better term.
They're zombie-ish, yeah.
Zombie-ish, yeah.
Zombie adjacent.
It goes in a really weird direction. It starts with an astronaut in a ship of some kind, maybe a space station, I'm not sure. And they're looking at the moon out the window, and then they suddenly see the moon open two giant pairs of eyes, a giant pair of eyes, and a giant mouth, and then just start moving toward the Earth. And it's like all from the astronaut's perspective.
Oh.
As he's just like, I don't know how to react to this. And then there are like several more episodes that were made later. And I'm pretty sure that Jupiter also has a big face on it.
Oh.
Several of the planets do. Jupiter,
all the planets do, yeah.
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus.
I
think Neptune gets one eventually. And then some people artificially induce the face on Mars.
Yeah.
It's making me think of Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is similar to that. And at one point, the space opens up and this giant hand comes out and grabs, I think it's Jupiter, and like pulls it away from Earth.
Yeah.
So it's all cosmic horror-y goodness.
That's not where hands belong.
That's where we start to get into the Lovecraft stuff. I did post in the channel the YouTube playlist of current episodes. They've gotten 14 episodes so far and a couple of intermissions.
So I genuinely, because I just discovered this today as of recording, but I watched this all earlier this afternoon. So I don't know how old this is. It's not that old.
Oh, yeah, it's only like a year and a half old. I think it started like, the first video was posted April 17th, 25, so just over a year old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you bring it up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but in my research for this episode, I also discovered it. So
Mhm.
I thought it was fascinating that you brought it up.
Yeah, I ended up watching it a couple of months, like a month or two ago, I think.
I might have to check that out because I'm kind of into like a lot of the analog horror kind of stuff, and it sounds like it might be adjacent to that.
It kind of is that.
Mhm.
It reminded me, the imagery in it reminded me of, I've seen a picture of like a D&D source book that is like the moon as a mimic, which I don't think there's like a story behind it. I think it was just somebody made it and was like, here,
Mhm.
you can use this in your game if you want. And
Hmm.
these are all things that I thought were fascinating, and every single time I discover them, I am reminded of Jim's hatred of that Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, because it's bad.
Which one is this?
Kill the moon.
Kill the Moon.
The moon's an egg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Did I see Kill the Moon? Which Doctor was that one?
that's the 12th Doctor.
12?
Capaldi.
Okay, then I did see it. I don't remember it. Maybe
Yeah,
there
it's
was a
because you
reason.
blocked it out.
I was about to say, did I suppress that memory?
Probably. I would have.
If Justin would let you forget about it.
Yeah, right. I did rewatch all of Doctor Who, like the new, from 9 onward, in preparation of when the 15th Doctor was going to come out. And I did skip that one episode.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's bad. But I think it's also a really good jumping off point to talk about something else that's interesting about the moon. And that is that the moon, as it orbits around the Earth, it's not exactly orbiting around the Earth in sort of like the Earth stays still and the moon is moving. They orbit around a common center point called a barycenter.
Okay.
Now, granted, the barycenter for the Earth-Moon system is inside of the Earth, but the Earth does wobble as it sort of is, doing this little dance with the moon. And if you got rid of the moon, presumably you would get rid of that teeny little wobble. And I wasn't really able to find out anything about this, and I might have just been asking the question in the wrong way.
Right.
But I'm like, would the lack of wobble cause any kind of like catastrophes on Earth? Like, would there be earthquakes? Would there be, volcanic eruptions? Because I would imagine that the inertia for that would just sort of, keep it going in a specific direction. But I don't know, because it's a small wobble.
And also it would probably cause the Earth to not rotate around the fixed axis. I don't know how true that is. But that would cause significant impact to like our day-night cycle and then the seasonal changes.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that that would be plausible.
Yeah.
You have the moon going around, and presumably the little bit of gravity is kind of tugging at the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not that much since the moon's smaller, but that's plausible at least.
Oh, that reminds me, actually, the other thing that the moon does help us out with is stabilizing our axial tilt.
Mm-hmm.
Because the axis does wobble a little bit. Like right now it's, about 23.5 degrees, but it'll kind of shift back and forth a little bit. But the moon sort of acts as a gyroscopic stabilizer to make sure that it doesn't change too quickly or too extremely. And so there's a chance without our moon that might not be as stable, or it might shift more over short term rather than, staying the same long term.
Now, and all of this on the note to say that like everything I was reading suggests this would not be short term by any means. This would be like stuff that would start to affect like hundreds or thousands of years after the moon is gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I could see the day-night cycle causing some problems with the ecosystem. I could see the less powerful tides causing some problems, as you were saying, like tidal pools and stuff. But like it all surprisingly is stuff that humans currently alive could probably adapt to fairly easily.
Yeah.
Which was really surprising to me.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of one of the other things that I was thinking about, which was just the fact that the moon, provides a lot of evening light. And so, I don't think this would affect any ecosystems or anything like that. But I remember way back in, I think it was episode I don't know, it was in the first 10. We talked about, China wanted to build some kind of artificial moon, and that was like going to disrupt the sort of circadian rhythms of different animals. And I would have to imagine that, the moon disappearing may also disrupt some kind of circadian rhythms for animals, whether it's, nocturnal creatures, insects, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's harder to see what that would do in the short term, but I imagine it would probably disrupt agriculture in some way too.
Mm-hmm. No more romantic moonlit walks.
That's the biggest tragedy of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of trouble seeing at night.
Yeah.
Well, we have flashlights.
Painters aren't going to be able to go look at the moon.
Oh, then we wouldn't have Starry Night.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have that Quiznos commercial.
We wouldn't have the Quiznos commercial.
Artemis 3 is going to be canceled.
Well, there's one more avenue that I wanted to explore this question with, because I haven't seen Despicable Me in a very long time, so I had to refresh my memory about exactly how this was achieved. Mm-hmm. And it was done via a shrink ray.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's a couple things that I want to talk about. I'll get the quick ones out of the way first. One is Gru is attempting to steal the moon to hold it for ransom, to present himself as the greatest villain in the world and stuff. And I'm thinking, if technology exists that we can shrink the moon and get rid of it, who's going to pay that ransom? Like, I feel like we probably also have technology that could put a replacement back up there. I don't know.
It's fair, yeah.
So that's not a major note, but the real major note that I wanted to make, we've talked about shrink rays before. We've talked about shrinking technology, like the Asimov description, like why Asimov didn't want to write the Fantastic Voyage thing that he wrote, because he didn't think that the science made sense. The idea that shrinking is achieved by condensing the matter of something. We know that this is not how the shrink ray that Gru uses works.
Yeah.
Because they are able to handle the moon after shrinking it, meaning it must reduce not only volume but also mass.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I thought, if that weren't the case, if we had a shrink ray that worked in the other way, and we rapidly condense the matter of the moon to a significantly smaller size, we run the risk of creating a black hole.
Yeah,
we do.
And I'm pretty confident in saying this, is that as long as because I think in the movie they shrink it down to like the size of a big beach ball or something like that, right?
Yeah, somewhere close.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident in stating that I believe that a moon that size with the same mass as like our actual moon should not collapse into a black hole. Okay. I think it would have to be like the size of a marble or something like that, or maybe even smaller than that. But I know if you collapse the Earth into a black hole, it's like really small. But I would imagine it would generate a lot of heat compressing this thing, so it may turn into a blindingly bright object.
Or at the very least, it would be insanely heavy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's still the moon.
Yeah. Well, if you brought it to Earth, like if you shrank it and it was still in the sky, it would probably turn into like a second sun, basically, until it like cooled down somehow. But if you brought it to Earth, and let's just ignore the heat problem, if you just brought it to Earth and it was like a ball of moon, I feel like it would just hit the ground and just sink to the core of the Earth. And I would expect at that point, then some people would probably die.
Well, there you go.
I just took a look on YouTube just to see how big the moon is, and you can find it
in Despicable Me, you mean?
Yeah, once he shrinks it down, and he's holding it in the palm of his hand, so it actually is about the size of a softball, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that changes your calculations.
Either way, they are ridiculous.
Yes.
I am checking. Let me look at this. This looks like a reputable source. Let me just do a Control F for moon.
I'm concerned that there's a reputable source for this.
Okay, so well, the reputable source is Wikipedia, but there is a citation. Hold on,
Oh,
what
okay.
is the citation? This is a scientific paper.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the citation for a black hole that is the mass of the moon is 0.1 millimeters.
That is
Okay.
the mass of the moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be a wee little guy, probably hard to even see, like the tip of a ballpoint pen size.
Okay.
Okay, so Gru doesn't have to worry about the moon turning into a black hole.
Mhm.
He just has to worry about the moon, kind of. If you remember correctly, the shrink ray wasn't permanent.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, then there's your everyone would probably die. It
Yeah.
comes, it sinks to the center of the earth, and then it just expands in the center of the earth,
Oh.
causing volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and earth-shattering cataclysm.
I think it would do more than the volcanic eruptions and the earthquakes. So
I wanted to build
Jeez.
to the biggest. Like,
Yeah,
start small,
yeah.
go big.
kill the earth.
Kill the earth.
And then we go back to the moon woke up, except it doesn't wake up, it just ends up on Earth.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure we established that the earth is actually an egg and Jormungandr is in the center.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we have our own Doctor Who episode here.
Yeah. I feel like I better point this out before anyone else notices, is that the episode of Vaguely Scientific that I was referring to, By the Light of the Silver Age Moon, was actually episode 11. So
Wow, you were off by one.
I was off by one.
Since when did you become a software engineer? Off by one errors are so common. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
I almost want to say cut that part out and let's do it as a stuff we got wrong, but because of how petty it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the biggest problem with answering this question for me is that you can either look at it as what if the moon was just gone, or you can look at it as why can't this happen the way Gru does it?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything beyond that has been like, if we assume this, then this, and I love now the idea of the Earth, or of the moon sinking into the center of the Earth and then expanding. That's just my favorite thing now.
The other thing that I spent a little bit of time thinking about, and by a little bit of time I mean like I have no additional thing past this sentence, but in Dragon Ball Z, Piccolo blows up the moon at one point, and I always thought that would be much worse, because then you get all the little moon bits raining back down on the Earth, and I would have to imagine some of those moon bits would not be small.
I mean, disappearing the moon is significantly safer than destroying the moon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, assuming you could do it in the first place, because destroying the moon, it's not the absence of the moon that is causing all the immediate problems. It is the detonation of the moon and debris and the force required to do that. Like, how much did Piccolo push the Earth when he fired a beam strong enough to destroy? The other question I have about that specifically, and I don't actually know this for sure, is the Dragon Ball universe Earth? Or the planet that they're on, is it Earth?
I believe so.
I think it's Earth, but it's very much an alternate universe type Earth.
Okay. I was never clear on that.
I think it's interesting. This is very unrelated, but I do think it's interesting how in Dragon Ball, it doesn't seem like they ever get any recoil from firing energy blasts. So the Earth should be fine, but until the moon bits fall.
It can't be matter that it has to be pure energy, so there's no like reaction to them firing it. They're just able to project.
Yeah. We've talked about this on the show too.
Yeah, it's lasers.
Yeah.
It's always lasers.
You don't get recoil from lasers.
No. That's why they use them in Moonraker.
Sure.
That sounded like a joke, but that is actually the reason.
I have to take it on faith whenever you mention something from James Bond, because I haven't seen it.
No, yeah, there's like a big space battle, and because they're in space and there's no gravity, they use lasers instead.
Oh, that's reasonable, I suppose. All right, listeners, let us know this week, in addition to quantum mechanics and rapping, what don't we know much of.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to go straight into the next bit. I just was on the wrong tab. If you have any thoughts on that or anything else we talked about, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, or you can comment on our blog on the website, or you can like us on Facebook. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listeners. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great places where cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out. And so does telling your friends.
Especially if your friends haven't listened, right?
Yeah.
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 And if they're going to the moon, it would be a great time to, listen. It's a couple days out to the moon.
You can't travel back in time for them to listen when they came out, but you can listen to the back catalog.
Yeah.
That's kind of like traveling back in time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we reference a lot of things that were topical at one point.
Yes.
Sure. We have our finger on the pulse here at Vaguely Scientific.
Do we?
Oh.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and if you would like to support the show, there are two cool ways you can do that. One of them is to buy us a coffee by using the Buy Us a Coffee button right on our website, and the other is to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. A lot of really amazing designs out there. We had a couple new ones when episode 200 dropped, so check them out.
Yeah, we're already 6 episodes past 200.
Ooh.
What is happening?
250 before you even know it.
Probably.
Longest episode ever.
3 hours. It was a good one.
Yeah. It was fun to listen to. I did listen to the whole thing, so since I edited it.
We haven't talked to Chris since episode 200, so thank you for being here again with us.
Always a pleasure.
Hooray! For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I am not a rap god.
I'm beginning to feel like one.
Maybe in many, many years.
It's something to aspire to.
Peace, we out.
Toodaloo, everyone. I feel like I should put like a beat behind that.
If you can figure out how to do it, I'm really bad at figuring out how to do beats in audio editing.
I'll just put the old Casio keyboard demo.
I don't know that I'm in time.
No, I don't think you're in time to that specific thing. I can't imagine that would be the case.